What's up, everybody? My name is Nick, and welcome to Short Circuit Sports, the channel that brings you weekly, lightning fast coverage of the sports world from a fan's perspective. I'll be covering anything and everything from breaking news to scores and predictions with analysis. That being said, we got a lot going on in this episode. We got some Thursday night football recap, along with my top 5 games to watch this weekend in the NFL. We got an NBA blockbuster trade that just went down, and we got some tight MLB playoff races with, I think, 3 days to go, so you don't want to miss any of that. So, without further introduction, stay plugged in, stay charged up, and let's get into it. So, for those of you that missed it, the Detroit Lions went into Green Bay and absolutely throttled the Green Bay Packers on Thursday Night Football. The headline of the night was easily David Montgomery and how dominant he was in this one, rushing for over 120 yards and 3 touchdowns, and it seemed like whenever the Lions needed a big play, he delivered. The Lions defense, on the other hand, ended up sacking Jordan Love 5 times on the night, while also picking him off twice and pressuring him what seemed like on every single play. And when the second half started, it looked like the Packers would repeat what they did last week and deliver an amazing comeback, and the Lions completely put it to rest almost as quickly as it started. The final score of this game is a lot closer than the actual game was, and the Lions moved to 3-1 and have earned another dominant win that is a complete statement to the rest of the league. And they will return home to face the Carolina Panthers in Week 5, while the Green Bay Packers suffer their second loss of the season and will travel to Las Vegas to face the Raiders. Moving on, we got my number 5 game of the top 5 games to watch this weekend. And while a lot of people might not seem well, a lot of people really don't want to probably see this game. It is an 0-3 team against another 0-3 team. I personally am interested in this game mostly because I want to see how rookie quarterback Bryce Young on the Panthers, number one, deals with adversity, and number two, how he comes back from injury. Personally, I don't think any of that's going to matter. I feel like Minnesota is due, and with how their offense has been playing, I feel like against a struggling Carolina team, Minnesota should easily win this one. I have them winning 28-17 and earning their first win of the season. Moving on to my number 4 game, I got the Las Vegas Raiders going to Los Angeles to face the Chargers. It's a divisional matchup. I feel like both teams play each other really, really well. But at the same time, the Raiders have been struggling. The Chargers offense put on an absolute clinic last week against Minnesota. Justin Herbert and the Justin Herbert Keenan Allen connection is better than ever, and I feel like that's what's going to be the difference in this game. I feel like the Chargers edged this one out 28-21. That being said, the Chargers are dealing with a lot of significant injuries on both sides of the ball. What else is new? So this game could be a lot closer than even I expected to be. Moving on to my number 3 game, I got the Washington Commanders at the Philadelphia Eagles. Another divisional matchup. I think this game has the potential to be a lot closer than even I think it will be. But also, let's not forget that Washington was one of the very few teams to actually beat Philadelphia last season. So I wouldn't underestimate Washington. That being said, the Eagles are my number 2 team in the league for a reason. I feel like they take care of business. I don't think they have any problems whatsoever with Washington on either side of the ball. And after what the Commanders did last week against the Buffalo Bills, putting up only 3 points, I think this is a cakewalk for Philadelphia. And I have Philadelphia going 4-0 to start the season. Moving on to my number 2 game, I got the Baltimore Ravens going to Cleveland and winning by a field goal. I have yet another divisional matchup on my list, and I think this is going to be another close one. The Ravens are dealing with a plethora of injuries. That being said, they've got Lamar Jackson, and he is a much better quarterback than Deshaun Watson is on the Browns. Um, I feel like Deshaun Watson is really showing how much he's regressed, and I think he is the reason why the Browns are struggling on offense. And I think that's the reason they're going to lose this game. Which sucks if you're a Browns fan because I really do think that they have a very formidable defense this season. And at the end of it, their quarterback is going to be the reason their effort will be for nothing. So I have the Ravens winning this one 24-21. These teams play each other very well, but at the end of it, I feel like the Ravens have just enough to get over the Cleveland Browns. Moving on to my number one game. If you look at the weekend slate, there is zero doubt in my mind that this is the game everybody is keyed in on. The Miami Dolphins traveling to Buffalo to play the Bills, and after the week that the Dolphins just put on against the Denver Broncos, there is zero doubt in my mind everybody wants to see what they're going to do for an encore. Putting up 70 points at home. I don't think anybody saw that coming. I didn't. You didn't. 70-20? Just based off of that information and also with how much the Bills love to throw the ball, I feel like this has the biggest potential of any game this season to be a shootout. That being said, I don't think any of these teams are putting up 70, but then again, never say never. I would not be surprised if quarterbacks Tua Tagovailoa and Josh Allen combined for 600 yards passing, if not more. That being said, I do have the Dolphins winning this one. I don't think there are too many defenses in the NFL that can compete with the Dolphins on either side of the ball. And the Bills' defense is not what I would call lockdown. So I have the Dolphins winning this one by a touchdown. It could be a lot worse. Moving on. This is going to be a very rare honorable mention for this kind of list. And this is the Denver Broncos at the Chicago Bears. Both teams 0-3. Everyone is calling this the worst game of the season, and I'm not going to tell you any different. I do think that I'm giving these two teams the benefit of the doubt, that they can even put up this amount of points. I do think that Denver has the better offense, which is why I think they're going to win. But I do think this game is going to get ugly, and how they score is also going to be ugly. So much so that a lot of people like myself are saying that the loser of this game should get relegated or demoted to another league, much like European soccer. Speaking of relegation, I bring it up because it has just been announced that the XFL and the USFL have announced an intent to merge. This information comes from many different places, including but not limited to Dwayne Johnson's own social media account. That is noteworthy because he is an owner of the XFL. And I mentioned relegation because if the new league that comes out of this can formidably compete in ratings with the NFL, I could very well see a partnership where teams that don't do well in the NFL get swapped out with better teams from the XFL, or whatever they call the new league, which would theoretically get rid of the NFL's tanking for higher draft picks problem because no one wants to get demoted. So I personally think it'll be interesting to see where this goes, and we'll just have to wait and see how this plays out. Moving on to the NBA, we just had a blockbuster trade go down between the Portland Trail Blazers, Milwaukee Bucks, and the Phoenix Suns. Star point guard Damian Lillard, after officially filing a trade request with the Blazers, gets shipped to Milwaukee. That is significant because Damian Lillard had already expressed only interest in one team, and that was the Miami Heat. And Portland basically said, no, we're going to trade you to whatever team we want to. And in this particular case, Damian Lillard goes to the next best option. In exchange, the Blazers get point guard Drew Holiday, center DeAndre Ayton, forward Toumani Camara, a 2029 unprotected Milwaukee first-round pick, and unprotected Milwaukee swap pick right in 2028 and 2030. Phoenix receives center Yusuf Nurkic, guard Grayson Allen, forward Nasir Little, and guard Keon Johnson. It remains to be seen if Portland holds on to DeAndre Ayton, but they have already announced their intent to move Drew Holiday, and many teams are expected to pursue him. I have heard rumors of the Clippers being in on Drew Holiday, as well as the 76ers. I expect that list to grow. Moving on to baseball, we got the MLB standings with 3 days left in the regular season. We've got the wild AL West between Texas, Houston, and Seattle. I expect Texas to hold on to that 2-game lead on Houston, and Houston and Seattle are going to have to duke it out for one of the very few remaining wildcard spots. Both Minnesota and Baltimore have clinched their respective divisions, and the Tampa Bay Rays have already clinched the number 1 wildcard seed in the American League. Moving on to the National League, all 3 divisions have been locked up, and everyone else is fighting for a wildcard spot. In the American League wildcard, like I mentioned before, Tampa Bay has already clinched that number 1 seed, and Toronto is holding desperately on to a 1-game lead for that second wildcard spot. It is going to be a race between Houston and Seattle to see who can get that third and final American League wildcard spot. In the National League, it is not a 2-man race. It is between 4 teams for that final spot. It is between Miami, Chicago, Cincinnati, and San Diego. And my personal thought on this is that nobody's catching Philadelphia. I don't think anybody catches Arizona. And I do think that Miami does hold on to that last spot. If anything, Chicago might have a chance at it, but I do think that Miami holds on to that final spot. So that is it for episode 2 of Short Circuit Sports. Please let me know in the comments if there's anything you agree or disagree with or want to hear more about in the next episode. Also, if you like this episode and you want to hear more, please hit that like button and subscribe. And at the end of it all, stay plugged in, stay charged up, and I will see you next time on the next episode of Short Circuit Sports. Have a good one.